Right, welcome once again. Let's continue this video where in the previous one I had shown you how I managed to get to the feudal age before AI. I reached 21 villages. I'm on 18 right now, but the next three are lined up and Loom is also lined up. And the hope is that these guys collecting um, the food from the boar and these from the sheep, and then I have tasked them to build a mill and then look at these deer over there. Meanwhile, I have found these two sheep, and that's my first mistake, that I did not wait for the sheep to come here and get these four to continue getting food from there. Instead, now I have to task these hunters onto that sheep. And what is worse is that uh, I have made this gamble that was necessitated by the fact that I had this wood line right in front of my town center. As you can see, it is over here. Most likely my opponent is somewhere over here, right? That is how it usually works. But it could be that he has been located here or here, and I have made the mistake here while I move up uh, to the next age. I have made the mistake of choosing one side. Ideally, I should have built the barracks, which is what this villager is going to do, somewhere over here, right? In case the attack comes from there. Of course, I won't be able to build the barracks here because it's too close to the mill, and I like the area around the mill to be clear for future farms. But I made this huge gamble, uh, complacency, overconfidence, call it what you will, that the opponent is going to be to my southeast and not southwest for sure. Meanwhile, I have asked these hunters to have a go at building a mill over here, and the builder who is building the barracks is also going to build a house after that. And the thinking over here is that I will wall off this area. Once again, I'm doubling down on my wager that this is where the enemy is going to be. I haven't yet sighted him, and my scout is somewhere far away, nowhere close to even doing the actual scouting of the enemy right now, because I had already tasked him to all of these things and had forgotten about him. So you can really go wrong in a million places. I've already lined up villagers even as I go up to the next age, and I have forgotten to give her something to do. These villagers will be going onward because I really am short of that despite having 7 over here. That's because of all these extra buildings that most people don't resort to. So now I should have at least sent one villager down here to at least begin some sort of walling up in case there is an enemy over there. And even if the enemy was indeed to my southeast as I had hoped, even then I would have eventually walled up this side as well. So there was no harm in going over there and starting that process, but I have not done it, and boy do I have to pay for it. Now this archery range is also complete, so I just need one more feudal age building in order to move up to the next age, the castle age. Meanwhile, I'm keeping another house here in case I forget about it later, and this is one of my tripling down measures, you might call it. Meanwhile, the scout is hugging the southern edge of the map. That's not a good idea either. It's very rare that you'll find the enemy restricted to that far away. It'll probably be somewhere close to here, if at all it is here or there or down here. What I'm saying is, do your scouting properly, get it right. Don't do it in a haphazard, uh, lame way like I have done over here. So, meanwhile, these four who had hunted the deer, I have tasked them to the gold, which is ironic because if I think that the enemy is over here, then I wouldn't have done that over here, but it's just another mistake, and there's more to come. Now, the one defensive building that you really should build when you're playing against an AI opponent is a watchtower. Guard tower takes about 125 stone, which is most of your stone allocation at the start. And I have built that watchtower again over here, although I have already had an inkling now of where my enemy is. I should have stopped this. I should have instead built the watchtower here. Meanwhile, the enemy scout is freely moving about my kingdom, uh, and I have finally now realized that I have to wall over here because this is where the enemy is most likely to uh, come from. The enemy Eagle Scout has just had a go at one of my foragers. Meanwhile, you of course keep your villagers coming. You have to build food, and here's the first attack, and I am in trouble now. I have started building skirmishers, which is the typical antidote to archers, but this villager is surely done for, and these are in trouble as well. So I just decide to use them as attackers until these guys show up. Meanwhile, my pretty useless watchtower is up and ready, yay. And my villagers are putting up a fight, but that's not what they were meant to do. That's not what they are there for. They are there for collecting resources, and they of course therefore don't move on to the next opponent if they happen to kill one, which my villagers have done, but they are going to be picked off one by one. My skirmishers finally have arrived onto the scene, and I've managed to save 3 out of 7 villagers, if I recall, I had over there. So terrible altogether. Another good antidote to archers is well, anything that you can build in cavalry, any cavalry that you can train. But I have now run out of villagers to do any building, and the ones that are created, I have forgotten about them as well. So this is pretty much the wheels coming off, as it tends to happen as soon as you start getting attacked. Everyone has a plan until the first punch lands. That is quite typical. So I've completely forgotten about this villager. I don't know what I'm doing over here. I don't see me doing anything at all over here. So just goes to show how wrong things can go. So for some reason I have decided to uh, keep collecting food from these forage bushes rather than build uh, this walling up this territory, thinking that these 5 skirmishers is going to be enough. Well, it could have been enough if I hadn't decided on simply placing them over here. Could have kept them moving, kept scouting. Obviously this area is still available for the enemy to attack, but there you go. uh, anyway, the key, remember, is to keep villagers coming, and I have forgotten to do that as well over here. I've missed a few seconds, and that makes all the difference. It all adds up. And so the AI enemy did try another attack from this side, found my skirmishers, ran into them, and was decimated. But this is the extreme level AI. He's not going to keep trying the same thing. He's going to try a different route, which is what has happened over here. So I finally realized that I've gotten some archers over here. I don't remember why I built archers, why I trained archers. Skirmishers is the easier thing to do. I probably had plenty of gold and wood rather than food. You need food for skirmishers, you don't need food for archers, and that is why I probably resorted to that while I collect some more food over here. Meanwhile, I have lost several more villages quite clearly. 3 more is what it is looking like at the moment, and I'm not even looking to save him. Finally, I realized that he can go back. Uh, at least my gold collection is not being hampered. They are not being harassed over there. And skirmishers and your troops in general have a pretty unfortunate tendency of running after the one invader that they had picked, and he can lead you all the way to his base if you're not careful. Luckily, I've had outnumbered him eventually, but I have suffered a lot. Despite that, my score is pretty good. As you can see over here, I've got a huge lead over my AI opponent, 400 points, whatever that is. But that is largely because I have managed to kill so many of his military units. My scout, meanwhile, I have, if I recall by now, I have put him into the uh, auto scouting mode. That is what it looks like, otherwise he wouldn't come here deep in that. Now again, I keep repeating the same mistake. I am collecting all of these in one possible path of invasion, but the other paths are all clear. The enemy can keep on attacking from there. A human enemy would also go all the way over here. Of course, my opponents are Aztecs and they don't have cavalry, so at least there won't be uh, any fast invading armies over there. I have finally managed to at least assign someone to wall up this area, but that leaves this area clear. So obviously the enemy is going to come from here, so I should at least have some sort of defensive setup over here, some skirmishers and archers, but instead I have forgotten my army over here. I've probably forgotten completely because I was quite busy collecting resources to move up to the castle age. I have this um, fixation on moving up to the next age as early as possible. It's really not crucial. Yes, you get to research more technologies when you move up to the next age, and I have sometime built a market to get more stone because I have decided to build a watchtower over here. Once again, I'm so certain that this is the only place that the enemy can attack from, and this is one of the many mistakes that you can do. So this is a good example of how not to play against not just extreme AI, against anybody really. Absolutely anybody would have found a way to pick me off by invading from all of this, from this gap on the other side between these two forests, between these three forests. Uh, Meanwhile, I have managed to get uh, a stable in place and am training some scout cavalry, but it is not going to be good enough because I'm sure we can all predict what is going to happen. The next attack is going to come from here. Uh, don't leave villages idle, that is the next most obvious tip. He has beaten me to the castle age, no surprise there. I was really slack after advancing to the feudal age that quickly, and I got really distracted by doing all of this. Again, this guy is just standing there doing nothing, although I am in the castle age and I should probably start building some more buildings. So here we are. I've gone for the monastery because that is another fixation for me. I tend to look for the relics. I really like them. I don't know, the idea of free gold from garrison relics, it really moves me. Now I've started building my second town center. I try to build it so that it is close to the first one so that I can build a row of farms over here and it is close to another resource. I've been very lucky with this placement over here. I'll get rid of this house, I'm sure, eventually. Meanwhile, I am researching bow saw and heavy plow. My gold and stone mining research is not yet complete. The monastery is done, but I don't have 100 gold to build a monk, to train a monk and get him to start collecting these relics. Meanwhile, of course, surprise, surprise, the enemy has found its way uh, to my wood line. I have blocked this area, so he will come here. Usually, I tend to leave some space over here to funnel the enemy through there, and then I build some watchtowers over there. That is what I was hoping to do over here, which would have been successful if I had succeeded in walling off this part. Luckily, I have some cavalry now, so at least I can reach there briskly, but they don't have too much going for them. You can, of course, train some ammo or something like that from here and improve your infantry and cavalry. So I do the coward's way out. I have no option but to garrison my villages inside the town centers, and that means my economy comes to a standstill. Somehow I have finally got a few more skirmishes to come and deal with these units over here, but you can see that it is all going downhill. I still have a better score, but I still have no way of defending my economy, and a human opponent would have completely decimated uh, my economy over here, gotten after my villagers instead of going after these buildings, which the AI seems to really like doing, luckily for me. Now my wood is in trouble. I only have 56 in store and I have very few resources. The ones that I do have, even those are not doing their tasks, and I don't have enough wood to build farms. This was a very nice assault, a very successful one by the enemy. Meanwhile, I have got a very strong base over here. Yay! Whatever I'm doing there is not going to work out. I should really finally realize that I have to close off this area. It's not very difficult to do, as you can see. Just have to do this, and that will close off that territory. But that would only invite him to come from this side. So if you are closing off, you should actually leave some gaps, especially when you're playing against the AI, so that the enemy will be forced to come through those gaps rather than coming through all of these empty areas. Now I'm just going to speed up. There's not much special happening over here except for the fact that I finally have enough gold to train a monk to do all that gathering. Meanwhile, my opponent has realized that this economy is pretty much defenseless, and so he starts going after them. I could have taken those villagers to this watchtower to garrison them there for protection, but I, for some reason, thought that the watchtower would be a better idea. Now you know what is going to happen next. I'm just going to reduce the volume. I have finally walled off this area and this area, leaving the enemy no other place to come but from here. And that perhaps finally protects my economy for a little while, but he has now leaped past me, raced past me, and my next attempt at building a guard tower has been halted midway because the villager himself has been picked off by these enemy archers. So I have pretty much gone into his territory to build this base, this forward base, which leaves me open to attack. Villagers are very good at picking off siege weapons, by the way. So I was able to do that over there, but he just keeps them coming, and I do manage to pick off one of his buildings, but the writing is on the wall. He's got an 800 point lead this deep in the game, and he is already in Imperial Age while I am nowhere close to moving up. You need a 800 gold and 1000 food to move from the Castle Age to the Imperial Age. I have finally succeeded in doing that, but the uh, enemy has gone way past me. So that is pretty much it. It is quite clear who is going to win over here, unless I manage to build some quick castles or something over here and suddenly start training a lot of military. But I simply have not collected enough resources, and it has been a very inefficient performance. This is how you lose against AI. You simply forget to do all the things that you have promised yourself that you will be doing, and I'm still busy collecting relics when I really should be focusing on building cavalry. Actually, cavalry would have been helpful over here, but I have built only one stable so far, so that is another bottleneck in my life. And my kingdom is about to be going the Ozymandias way. And I don't think I tortured myself much longer. I think I'm about to resign. That is that is what I remember about this game, that I resigned pretty soon. Did not keep fighting because it is quite clear that there is no hope over here. Just these two. I really should have used these. Now that I have plenty of stone, I should have at least used these to build a few more stables, but I failed to do that and resigned. And look at his economy. Brilliant. AI really does that well, and the trick to play against AI and defeat them is to not allow his economy to boom. But I don't like playing that way. I like researching all the things that you get from your university and your blacksmith. I really like that. But if you actually keep attacking against the AI, you really stand a good chance because he's not very good at defending. Look at this, he's just built one castle all the way over here. There's no way that this castle is going to help him defend his territory, nor is it a forward castle meant for attacking. So it's pretty weird, and that I allow AI to get away with all of that. we look at the statistics, I actually have better military statistics, but terrible economy and technologies and society statistics, which really skews the total score in his favor. Killed a lot of units, lost quite a few, but more importantly, this is an indicator that I was the defender. If you kill a lot of military units, if you kill a lot of villagers, it means that you have been the attacker, and it is quite clear who the attacker was. Villager high, it's got twice as many as I did, and that really says it all. So I beat him to the feudal age. The castle age was pretty much even, and I almost didn't get to the imperial age at all. So that is a demonstration of a terrible way of defeating, or rather playing against the extreme AI. In the next video, I will perhaps hopefully manage to beat him. See you then. Bye bye.